good evening. Welcome to this week's edition of the Ride Along Radio Show, show number 86, the show where you have two veteran police officers who give you, and sometimes three veteran police officers, or sometimes two in a ride along, who give you our informed perspective on the issues of the day and different stuff that we think might be of interest to you. Some of this stuff comes from things that you've tagged us, one or both of us in, and then we try to come here and give you our perspective. So I'm George Holt.
I'm Gil Contreras.
And we are the Ride Along Radio crew. We usually start with social media feedback, and we had something. If you can find that photo that Chuck Farmer did of us with the the transgender the transgender photo. I talk about our first social media feedback from Cabot Haynes via YouTube, and Cabot Haynes says, "So we've given up on Snowfall? Episodes 3 and 4 slowed down a bit, but I'm going to stick with it." So I guess Cabot Haynes wants you to start doing your Snowfall breakdowns again.
Yeah, I did catch up the other day because it's on demand, and boy, I was falling asleep.
Really?
It's just not good. It's not good. I like the soundtrack.
See, I haven't. You know what? I walk through the family room, and sometimes intern Darren will be sitting there watching it. And that's how I see Snowfall, because I'll walk through the house and he's sitting there watching it.
Yeah, I don't know.
I've not seen one episode. I've been living vicariously through you. So
yeah, no. I'll tell you what we were watching and we really really enjoyed was on Netflix. Ozark.
What's that about?
With Jason Bateman. He plays an attorney who begins to launder money for a Mexican drug cartel. Okay, and all that comes with that. But the writing is really really good, and so is the acting, so are the characters.
He's a great comedic actor, though. Is this a comedy or
no? It's not a comedy. He's a great straight actor too. If you ever saw him in that other movie about a stalker, his wife had a stalker.
No, I didn't see that.
That was a good movie too. But I'm a big fan of his. I like the stuff he does, and he was great in Arrested Development. It was so funny,
definitely.
But no, Ozark is really really interesting. It's an interesting story. And just watching him, people are trying to compare it to Breaking Bad.
I was going to ask you, was it along those lines? That's what I was going to ask you.
And it's not trying to be Breaking Bad, but it's watching this guy who, because of the pressure of just trying to make money and have a business, decides to go this way for a lot of money.
And he's an attorney, or he's an accountant?
He's an attorney.
Okay.
And or he's a financial planner. Actually, his partner maybe have been the attorney. I don't quite remember.
But he's a finance guy. He knows.
He's a finance guy.
Got it.
And so what's his name? Isai Morales, who's
is he in it?
He's really good.
Yeah. Okay.
He plays this kind of. Second lieutenant in the cartel who is clean enough to come back and forth and pretends to be a textiles import-export guy.
Sure.
And so he brings this. He brings his financials to a bunch of law firms or a bunch of financial firms, and he wants them to go through it and tell them how they can tighten it up.
Right.
So. Everybody does the obvious stuff, but when Bateman does it, he takes the time, and when they call him in for the meeting, he tells them, he goes, "Well, I think you have a problem here. You have all this, and somebody's trying to make it look like this, but meanwhile, there's about $3.2 million."
So he caught it.
He caught it, and the other ones hadn't, and so Isai Morales now wants, he wants Bateman to work for him.
Sure.
And so he has to tell them what they do,
right?
And so it's an interesting journey.
Now, where can I watch that?
That's on Netflix.
Okay, good. It's an easy one then.
Yeah.
All right.
It's on
so
Netflix.
we have given up on Snowfall.
I'm going to keep watching it just because now I just want to know what the hell is going to happen. I don't like the storyline. It's moving way too slow.
Well, that's what Cabot Haynes said. He said episode 3 and 4 slowed down, but he's
I was falling asleep. I mean, I remember the 80s.
The real deal.
Much more active than what I'm watching.
Okay, so that was so Cabot Haynes. There's your answer, and man, Chuck Farmer is a funny guy, And last week, after we brought up the whole transgender
do you know
thing,
him? You don't know him?
No, I don't know him personally. Just through social media, we've been in contact for I guess a couple of years now.
Okay.
Through other shows here on the network, etc.
Because I was wondering what he actually does for a living. Because he seems to have a lot.
Isn't he a graphic artist for real?
He seems to have a lot of time.
Him, and
he's really good with Photoshop.
I wonder, right? Is he a counterfeiter? I don't know. That's why he can sit at home. No, him and Aaron Gladman, I think, do that for a living. But yeah, that's outstanding. So yeah, so you were talking about the transgender issue, and you said you said, for example, if I came to do the show this week and I had a dress on and I wanted to be called something else, then it would be your last show. And then so I said you could be Gilda, and so anyway, he took that ball and ran with it.
Yep.
And came up with this is basically, I guess, from White Chicks.
Right.
I think it's from White Chicks, right?
Yeah.
When a beauty pageant is threatened with missing contestants and the LAPD doesn't care, 2 retired officers step up to take out the trash. Morris Media Studios, in conjunction with Ride Along Productions, presents George Holt as Georgia Banks and Gil Contreras as Gilda Knows It All in Office Hers. And that's this guy. I don't know where we got those photos. I think that's my website photo. I don't know where we got your photo from.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know how people. I guess people are like scrolling through my shit.
Right. Google Images, right? And that's hilarious. I put that on my personal page. I think you did too, right?
I thought it was.
Man,
so
we got such a good reaction from that. Like, hilarious. Thank you very much. That was I think that's the best one yet. And we've got a couple good ones, but I think that's the best one yet.
It's interesting to me how, people who we don't know are, suddenly they feel, because of the show, right? They feel like they know us. Right. And so they,
But what's so funny is then the person who doesn't know us takes creates this work product. And then we share with people who do know us, and then we get such a positive response from them.
Everybody loves it.
Yeah, right. So I mean, wow.
Now is Cabot the guy who made me Gil O'Reilly?
Cabot Haynes is the one who asked about Snowfall. He made Gil O'Reilly.
Oh, he did. Okay.
Chuck Farmer is. I don't think he's given us any names.
Oh, okay.
Now, Willie Sweet Wonka Joe said the Book of Gilviticus. That was last week.
Oh, that was funny.
That was good. The Book of Gilviticus.
Hey, if you check your scripture, you'll find it.
Right. That's right. And then Aaron Gladman, I think, did the one with the marijuana. I think that might have been when they put our heads on the officers' heads about marijuana. That's pretty good, and that kind of thing is motivating because it lets us know that people are engaged and that you give a shit enough to take time enough to do that. So I appreciate that.
I love them, to tell you the truth. I just think they're funny, and whenever we get a good one like that, I always put it on my own Facebook page.
Yeah. I just fell out laughing. I couldn't believe it, and actually I hadn't seen it. POTUS tagged me in it, laughing, and I thought that was great. So before we move into news of the day, if you want to call in and share your thoughts with us. 323-293-3375, and if you're watching live, then you already know it's at morrismedialive.com.
Before we move into news of the day, I just want to say I just found out about 2 hours ago that there's a friend of mine who's, he's probably the best jazz guitarist that I know. Mm-hmm. And I know some good guitar players.
Okay.
But, his name is Larry Feldman, and apparently, and I still don't know why, but apparently he had brain surgery like 2 hours ago.
Wow. Was it an emergency?
I don't know. I don't know what the story is, and when I get the chance, I'm going to call my friend who posted the thing today. But I just want to send out good thoughts and prayers to Larry because he's a great guy. He's a sweet guy, just the sweetest man you ever met. And he adopted a son a couple of years ago, a little boy, and he's a great. So
he's a dad now. Yeah,
he's a dad.
Nice.
And but talk about playing jazz on that guitar. When that boy gets going, if you close your eyes. You'll go, that's George Benson.
What?
That's how good he is.
That's a bold statement.
That's how good he is.
Wow.
I'm just telling you that right now.
Well, man.
And I've had the privilege of playing music with him, and playing percussion to his jazz stuff. And, man, there's just nothing like it. So,
hopefully keep him in prayers and hold a good thought for him.
Yeah, I hope Larry recovers nicely from that.
Yeah, wow, man. So, listen, this first news of the day story, is a story that we covered probably 2 weeks ago, and then it had new life breathed into it because, man, Baltimore PD is a gift that just keeps on giving.
Yeah.
They're like LAPD East, man. They're always in the news for something. And we talked about them facing allegations of planting evidence because there was some body camera footage that showed that Officer Goat appeared to plant evidence, and we said, hey, That's probably them recreating the circumstances because they didn't have the camera on the first time.
And that's what they said later.
And that's what they said later.
Right.
And then there's another video has surfaced of the same thing, but I don't think the answer is quite so clear cut. So we'll play that video and then we'll discuss that.
Baltimore's police commissioner says there is no doubt that drugs were recovered in 2 cases involving alleged police misconduct. 2 separate body camera videos show Baltimore officers purportedly faking evidence. One captures officers recovering drugs from a car in November, the other from a backyard in January. Defense attorneys in both cases say the footage shows officers planting drugs. Jeff Pegues is in Baltimore with the investigation and the fallout for police. Jeff, good morning.
Good morning. Already, prosecutors in this city have had to drop dozens of criminal cases since these body camera videos have surfaced. And the reality is this may not be the end of it for a Baltimore police department that is now once again defending itself against allegations of misconduct.
We are still having growing pains with body-worn cameras.
Baltimore Police Commissioner Kevin Davis says it is too early to tell whether body camera video taken at this traffic stop last November shows officers planting evidence.
What are you stopping us for? Step up. What you mean step up? What are you stopping us for?
The public defender's office says the officers' initial search for drugs came up empty. Then they turned their body cameras off. At least 3 different officers begin recording again, showing the moment drugs were recovered from the car.
I knew it. That's why they were freaking out. That's the weed smell right there, too.
Their credibility right now is in question because of a moment in time that's either captured or not captured on body-worn camera.
In another body cam video from January, a different officer is seen allegedly planting evidence in a backyard. Davis issued a memo on Tuesday reminding all officers to keep their body cameras activated until leaving the scene and warning that under no circumstances should they attempt to recreate the recovery of evidence.
While it's ugly and while I'm disappointed that officers in these 2 incidents recently did not have their cameras on, I think it's irresponsible to jump to a conclusion that the police officers were engaged in criminal misconduct.
Since equipping officers with body cameras in May 2016, Davis says Baltimore police have recorded 121,000 hours, or more than 7 million minutes of footage. The department's body-worn camera unit, made up of 8 sworn employees and interns, is tasked with screening the video daily. Davis says that's not enough.
I know that's a question from time to time by folks. Why can't you review each and every moment of body-worn camera footage? That's virtually impossible. I would have to hire hundreds of people to do that.
Law enforcement sources say privately some commanders view these cases as embarrassing and disturbing, and there is concern that some officers on the streets of Baltimore are taking illegal shortcuts. Charlie?
Jeff Pegues in Baltimore. Jeff.
Okay, so, I would be curious to find out if they're saying this time, too, we were just recreating footage. Because, honestly, that's the much more likely story than anything else. Not the cops haven't planted evidence on people before. I mean, that's happened. But I don't think that anybody's going to try to do that with that many other cops around. With the video camera rolling, knowing that, there's this footage out there. I think that they're forgetting to turn the cameras on because they're new. Mm-hmm. They're finding stuff, and they're saying, damn, well, we're supposed to have recorded that. Let's go recreate that so this person doesn't get away. But I think what you're supposed to do at that point is you're supposed to just take the L on that. I'm not saying let the person walk with the dope. What I'm saying is, you do what we used to do before we had body cameras. You recover the dope and you write a good report. And if you're going to get in trouble for not having the camera on, then I guess you got to explain why nobody had a camera on and why you didn't. But you don't go do this because now it looks like, and there's people who want to believe that you're planting evidence. Right. So you're feeding right into that,
Yeah. I on this one, I don't know. I wasn't, on the other one, the first video, the first incident, I looked at it and I go, they said the same thing that you said. They're kind of recreating it, and I bought that. It sounded reasonable to me. This one, I'm not so sure. I don't know because there's. I remember when I was a police explorer. There were 3 in high school. there were 3 major narcotics teams from LAPD and I think one from the sheriffs. It was 3 teams total. They did major dope, and they all got they all 3 teams went dirty, and they started by taking money from drug dealers. They were taking money and they were taking the money to buy equipment that they didn't have and they couldn't get from the county from the city, and so that's how they justified it in their heads, and
Right.
And what I know about those kinds of special teams is that requires real strict supervision. Like whoever's running those teams can't be their best friend.
Right.
He can't be the guy drinking with them at the end of the night.
Right.
He's got to keep that distance, that little bit of distance from them.
Sure.
In order to, so they don't feel comfortable doing if that's what they were doing here.
Right.
Because when you're out on the street, there's nobody there, and the cameras don't tell all the story, And so, in addition to being a police officer, I also have criminal defense experience. And I know that cops sometimes they're lazy.
Yeah.
Sometimes, it's like, I'm not going to worry about that. If it comes up, I'll deal with it then. Okay. And it takes and so the defense attorneys are getting smart. The first thing they're doing is they're going right to the body footage, cam
Where
footage.
is it?
Let's look at that first. And so what I've learned over the years is that, cops make mistakes, cops get lazy. Sometimes they just, just don't do what they're supposed to do for whatever reason. It's just, they just been doing it for so long, and it doesn't matter anymore.
Good point.
But I've never found in the years that I did criminal defense work, I never found cops that were just blatantly doing that kind of stuff.
Right.
It was always the other kind of stuff, which led to dismissal of charges and release from custody, and not doing a field show up properly, not making the proper admonition, and so the people are confused at the field show up, and they say yes, and then I come 2 months later and do an interview.
Sure.
And they go, well, the officer said this, the officer said that,
Right.
And so you can undo their work
Through
that
a
way.
mistake. But you know what? Part of it too. You said been doing it for so long. Now most of these coppers on the street were not on the street when you and I came on the street in the 80s, right?
Right.
But in the 80s, when we first came on the job, we were, as someone wrote, we were cloaked in the mantle of believability or credibility or something, so that sloppy police work could be smoothed over by your testimony in court. Mm-hmm. That if you did not do something right or record something properly, why you could merely testify to it and your word was good as gold. Mm-hmm. And then they would accept your word for it, and then the case would proceed.
And they would certainly accept your word over a crackhead.
Oh, right, definitely. But times have changed.
Or a guy with an extensive criminal history.
And now we no longer have that mantle of believability or credibility. And now our word is as open to being questioned as anybody's. We probably should have been all along, honestly. That would have avoided a lot of this had that been the case.
Well, and I mean that pendulum that you like to talk about, has made a complete circle around. It hasn't come back to this.
It got back to the middle yet?
It's just spinning. It's spinning now. Some of the things that officers are being accused of now, with the Black Lives Matter movement, popping up, and ever since Ferguson and the Michael Brown, and it kind of started with Zimmerman and Trayvon Martin. Where cops are today is just ridiculous.
Well, you know what? I think Rodney King was the thing that was a pivoting point for a lot of people's. In terms of what the police do and what the police say versus what ends up on video.
Nah, I don't think so.
You remember that, and then before that, Don Jackson. You brought that case up before too.
Right.
What those guys said happened wasn't what was on video.
Right, but the Don Jackson video I think was much more compelling than Rodney King, because the Don Jackson video, Don Jackson was trying to prove that the police in Long Beach were racist,
right? So and they would lie about what they were doing,
but they would get stopped without probable cause,
right?
And so and he convinced a news station to fix up the car with cameras, and all he did was drive into the city.
Yeah.
You know, he and another male black, and, you know, but, you know, and so one of them had, you know, I call them prison braids. Eddie Goodman calls them cornrows.
They're just cornrows. Yeah.
I don't know. But
they're just cornrows.
To me, they're prison braids. But so you're right, you know, you got two brothers, one in prison braids, you know, and they're cruising through the city, and they don't live there. You know, now they could just be going down to through the city
to Seal Beach or something. They could be right.
They could be, I guess, you know. But anyway, so they got stopped, you know, and one of the officers, you know, he grabbed Don Jackson, because Don Jackson immediately gets out of the car and starts fighting with, you know,
not fighting physically, but yeah,
arguing with the officer, just doing what we just saw that guy doing in the video. Why did you stop me? Well, the officer went to place him up against a plate glass window,
right?
And when he placed him up against it, he hit it too hard, and the thing just shattered and fell to the ground.
Exactly.
You know, so then Don Jackson, you know, changed his tune. If you recall the video, go, okay, I'm okay, man, I'm okay. It's good. And he turned him, he put him onto the hood of the car, and then he went to hook him up. Then the news van pulled up, and now the officer's like,
right,
putting him in the car. And so, you know, they wrote the report that they wrote, and it didn't match what was on video.
On video, right?
But, you know, so why that's more compelling is Don Jackson and his partner didn't do a crime.
Right, they had credibility going in because they were coppers, or at least he was.
Yeah, and the other guy worked for CDC.
Okay, yeah.
And so they're rolling in, and they're trying to prove a point, and you know, and so you know they kind of proved their point. Rodney King was a parolee on the run, for God's sakes. You know,
well, what I mean by that was
a vehicle pursuit.
That video, I mean, their arrest report didn't necessarily line up with what we saw either, but it wasn't like a complete 180, or, you know, it was like maybe fog of war stuff, and they didn't have a video either to recall what happened exactly. So, you know, if you did that with anybody, if you ask me what turns did I make to get here today, I may not recall them all perfectly, and then if you had somebody with a video following them, it doesn't mean I'm lying. It just means that I didn't, you know, I couldn't necessarily recall 100%. But so my point is that police officers had that amount of believability. Now we don't. And but when we did, I think we took a lot of shortcuts, knowing that they could be glued together by that believability that we had, and that's no longer the case. And now guys are getting caught up. Here's my question, though. You know, they're throwing a lot of these cases out on these Baltimore cases these officers were involved in. I'm curious to know how many of the suspects pled out to it, though. How many of the suspects just say, "Yeah, I had it. Okay, I'm going to take it. I'm going to."
Well, it's just like here. It's the majority of them. The majority
how
of
about
them are
this?
pleading out.
How many of them, if the dope was planted on them, how many of them filed a complaint and said, "No, that wasn't my dope. This is a bullshit arrest"?
Yeah, my guess is none.
Okay, so
because on that time when it got planted, they may have not had dope, but it doesn't mean that the officers know what they're looking at.
Right.
If you're an experienced cop and you're working in a high crime urban area, and these guys look like they're doing narcotics enforcement,
right?
So if you're a narc, you know what you're looking for. You know what you're seeing. When you see it, you know it. And so it's not like they're making this up. They're not.
There's no need to plant dope on anybody in Baltimore. You can find.
That's right.
The next guy will have it if this guy doesn't.
That's right.
But my question is, only one time did I see someone say, "That's not mine. That's being planted on me," and I kind of believed him. Okay, only one time. There was another time we had a group of guys stopped in a park, 3rd and Center, down in San Pedro, right, at the park there, and there's little baggies of weed on the ground, and one of the guys that's sitting there is known to be a big dope dealer in the projects, and we walk up, me, Larry Scottini, a couple other guys. Larry lights up the bleachers where they're sitting, sees little baggies of weed, he recovers the weed. We go, "Oh, well, looks like somebody's going to jail." And the guy, his name was, I'm not going to say his whole name, but his initials were MJ, the dope dealer, goes, "Shh, that ain't mine. Man, that's weed. You can ask anybody out here. Man, I don't sell nothing but cocaine." But we knew it wasn't his, and honestly, I said, well, you know, he's got a point. I've arrested him a couple of times, and it's always, you know, yeah, he's a cocaine guy. He doesn't do this.
Right.
But the other person was adamant, like tears in their eyes. That's not mine. And the officer was somebody we both know, and I won't say her name, but we worked with her for a while, and she was a narcotics person. Mm-hmm. And that person, you know, there was some questions anyway. That wasn't the first time that had been said. But typically, if you get somebody, man, and they did it, they're not going to try to say, that's not my gun, that's not my dope.
Oh, I don't know about that.
The officer planted it on me. Have you ever had anybody accuse you of planting dope on them or a gun on them?
Never had anybody accuse me of planting anything. But I have had experiences, then and even now, of that ain't mine.
Well, that ain't mine, sure.
That ain't mine.
That ain't mine is different than you planted that on me.
Right.
That ain't mine is, I don't know whose that is. I was running away from you, and I didn't throw that there. That must already been there.
Yeah.
That's different than saying you, officer, planted that on me.
That's right.
And I've never had that happen.
I never had that either.
That's what I'm saying. That's a rarity. So I'm wondering, did any of these people say those officers planted that dope on me? Those officers planted that gun on me?
The thing that the second video made me think in my head, as putting on the other hat, taking off the cop hat and putting on the criminal defense guy hat. The other thing that came to my mind was I wonder, now that there's 2 videos in such a short amount of time, and it's public defenders that are finding it by reviewing body cam footage, I'm just wondering if there's a larger problem with supervision of the specialized units that are running around out there. When you have guys in plain clothes and there's any kind of special team of any kind, you start to, you kind of isolate from patrol guys, and when they see you, I remember walking down the hallway and everybody go, oh, look at me, and narcotics coming through, here come the knacks.
No, you got haters. You always have haters.
Yeah.
Sure.
But, but the key to running those teams, and I was one of the initiators of the crime impact team that eventually became the SRT team that you had.
Yeah.
We were the ones that started serving narcotic search warrants and stuff. And I remember that the whole key to that was strict supervision of the guys who were working, informants, who were working with marked money, who were working with dope. It was just, you had to have strict supervision of that.
Yeah.
So the guys, you might bond as a team because you're doing dangerous stuff and you're getting into it and you're getting out of it without getting hurt. And pretty soon you start to feel invincible.
Right.
Like,
right.
You can't
We're
catch us.
unique. We're special. We're,
exactly.
Yeah.
And so when you get that in your head, now it's like, we're so good at what we do, and what we do has such an impact that if we have to cut corners right here on this guy, we know he's a dope dealer.
Right.
But if we have to cut corners on this arrest,
for the greater good,
it's not that bad, and that's when it can seep in. So it just made me wonder when I saw the second video. I was like, man, I wonder if there's a larger problem happening out there with these specialized teams that are working dope.
Probably,
because when there's that much dope in a city, when there's that much dope, there's that much cash, and there's that much guns. So, as an officer, you have to kind of pick your battles, about what you're doing. And, you have to be careful what you're doing because it can all blow up in your face. And so, if you're going too far, if you just go too far, we've seen it on Rampart. I saw it in the 70s when I was in high school. And I'm just saying it's a possibility that there's something larger happening over there that, the chief needs to, if I were that chief, I'd be calling my command staff in. I'd be calling the shit would start rolling downhill
because we got to find out what's going on.
If it is just that nobody's turning, they're forgetting that. Then we better retrain for God's sakes.
Right? Because you got to do that. That's just what it is. You must do it.
That's right.
People will assume
you better do something because that can't happen anymore. In police work, you don't have the luxury of making a mistake.
Got to be airtight.
It has to be right, and it has to be right every time.
Absolutely, I agree with you, man. And when you were talking about specialized units and how guys work together, I was deciding whether I was going to tell this story or not before the break, and I'm gonna. So here's a Right Long Radio Show exclusive. So back when I worked in narcotics, we would regularly take large sums of money from dope dealers, and money, dope, guns. And one case we recovered a couple of $100,000 from like one location had 80 grand, the other location had 25 grand, other location had whatever. And it came out to a large amount of money. So much so that we had to go down to the bank where our agency had their asset forfeiture fund, and they put us in a room with one of those machines with the right? And we actually did that to bundle all the money up, right? So me and 2 or 3 of my partners go down there. We're standing in a room with right, doing the thing. And so we take the money. Now we got it all counted up. We got it tallied up. We take it back to the station to put it in the evidence locker because there's something else we have to do the next day, and then we're going to go make the deposit. Okay. no, let me back up. We start off in the detective bureau with our own cash counter, okay? Then we lock it up in the evidence safe, and the next day we're taking it to the bank. That's what it is. So, all right. So I'm just going to throw out an amount. Say it was $160,000, okay, that we had seized. And so we count the money up, cool. Next day we get up, go back to work, hit the evidence locker, take the cash down there, and we put the money in the bank, and the bank counts it up, and it comes out to the $160,000. Mm-hmm. Okay. As we're walking out, one of my detective partners goes to me, goes, "Phew, well, that's a relief." I said, what are you talking about? He said, I counted that money up, and we all know it was $160,000. And but the last time I counted, it was he goes, this morning when I took it out of the safe, I counted $150,000. Okay, and he goes, and I'm glad I miscounted. I go, well, what do you think happened? He goes, well, and he mentioned somebody in the unit. He goes, he's going through divorce and everything, man. So I just figured he needed a little help. And I said, you weren't going to say anything? He said, hey, I was wrestling with my conscience over this $10,000 that I thought was missing, but he was sitting there that whole time not saying nothing.
Wow.
Not saying nothing, waiting for that count to come up light, I guess, so everybody could look at each other and go, what the hell, or whatever. But he wasn't going to say anything because remember, the logging of the cash only existed in our internal records at that point. Mm-hmm. So it would have been a small thing to go back and change it if that was the case, right? And the dope dealer's not going to go complain. That's another reason a lot of these dope dealers get ripped off, too. And I knew somebody who went to federal prison, and he said the FBI took he had $50,000 in cash, but when the FBI turned it in, it was only like $30,000. And he asked me, because it's a childhood friend, he goes, should I say something? Because they got $20,000 of my money. I said, so you mean to tell me that you want to go before the judge and go, Your Honor, I know they say they have $30,000 in drug money of mine, but I'm actually a much bigger dope dealer than that. It's $50,000 worth of drug money. So they know you're not going to say anything, right? And that's what this was. When my partner thought that money was $10K light, he told me that he did the math in his head. He's thinking, well, this person in our unit's going through divorce. It was probably him. Hey, if that's what he needs to do, that's what he needs to do. Dope dealer ain't going to miss it. He ain't going to say nothing. It's just us in the room. I was the last one to count it. Whatever. And he was just hoping it would die. Mm-hmm. But it didn't. It turns out it was all a figment of his imagination because the money was all there.
Right.
But that's how that thought process goes when you're in a clique like that where everybody's hanging out together and everybody's eating lunch together every day. So that's a dangerous thing.
Yeah.
You're right. And I totally agree with you on that supervision thing. You got to have a little separation in that supervision, or somebody who's holding that supervisor accountable that's not part of that unit that's going to go in there and make sure that you don't have those kind of issues.
Yeah.
Because guys get fast and loose, man.
That's right. And
there's been times when I've recovered, tens of thousands of dollars. I'm in a room by myself. There's nobody in that room but me, and I pull back the mattress, and there's 30 G's sitting right there. Mm-hmm. Ain't nobody in that room. Nobody but me.
Yeah, I remember traffic.
So you got, you know what I mean? It's just too easy for people to go sideways.
Driver takes off running, you go back to the car, and there's a paper bag with $20,000. It's just you and your partner.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that happens. Some of that shit's integrity checks too, by the way. But more often than not, it's not.
Yeah, I was going to say.
More often it's not an integrity check.
Where we were, I don't think it was no integrity check.
Right.
But so I don't know. I'm happy to say that I don't know what's going on in Baltimore. But if I was the chief, I'd be concerned about it.
Sure.
I'd be taking some action.
That's some accountability time.
I'd be getting in my supervisor's asses about this.
Right.
This is the second time
keep happening? Yeah.
This.
Well, here's the thing,
This
Gil.
is unsat. This nonsense with the damn
body
cams. I forgot. Oh, sorry, Sarge. Yeah. You get one of those.
Right. After that
there's
paper.
Problem.
Yeah. And unfortunately, man, this is all coming up. They said one happened in January, one happened in November. So that means there's more.
Yeah.
The problem is just not coming to light.
There could
be.
Yeah,
so there's likely more, and they're going to find one that happened in March and one that happened in April. You know what I mean? Until now, when everybody knows, stop doing it.
Yeah.
There's that period of time where they're vulnerable in there.
The other thing that kind of bothers me, and in the second video, is that the officers' reactions seem legit to me.
Sure.
They don't look.
They're not acting like.
They don't look like they're acting. Oh, hey, partner.
But then that makes me question: is it a reenactment at all? Then.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I don't know. But there's definitely, Chief got to get on that. Because it looks bad.
It looks bad, and that's the thing. We're supposed to avoid impropriety.
Perception is everything.
Impropriety.
Perception is everything.
Exactly.
Then because you see, if you show that and you don't get a handle on it, then guys like Eddie Goodman.
Eddie Goodman, he's the third, isn't he, or second?
He's the third.
He's the third. Like me.
It's three of them, apparently.
Like me.
I don't know the other two. I only know the third one. But they see this nonsense, and then they go, oh, yeah, see, there you go. You got any words for this? Dirty cops. What do you got to say about that? But that's what I got to say, Eddie.
And on that, we're going to take a break, Eddie. And we'll be back in a couple of minutes here on the Ride Along Radio Show.
Yeah, buddy. And then he just looked at me.
All right.
And we drove away.
And we drove into the sunset.
Into the darkness.
That was Freddy's Dead, a.k.a. the theme from Superfly by Curtis Mayfield.
Shut your mouth.
That was Shaft. That's Shaft. Wrong blaxploitation flick. So we had an officer who was killed in line of duty last week in the Indianapolis area. I think it was Bridgeport, Indiana. And it was an unusual case in that the suspect wasn't wanted for anything. The suspect hadn't come from committing a crime that we know of. And the suspect appeared to maybe be under some kind of drug-fueled psychosis or something. I'm not really sure what it was. But and the officer was coming to help the guy. That's all he was doing. Apparently there was a vehicle that was overturned as a result of an accident. The officer used to be a nurse, and the officer was climbing into the vehicle to try to aid the people in the car, and was shot 14 times. 14 times, and the officer expired at the hospital. So we'll play the video on that, and then we'll come back and talk a little about that and how you never know where danger's coming from.
The details in this shooting are incredibly disturbing. This was an officer who was responding to a car crash. The car involved flipped upside down in Southport, a community in South Indianapolis, and Lieutenant Aaron Allen, who has a background in nursing, was trying to help. When Allen got on the scene, two people still inside of the car were dangling by their seatbelts. That's when the driver, who's still upside down, allegedly started shooting. Court documents show that Lieutenant Allen was shot 14 times. Two other officers on the scene returned fire, injuring one person in the car. We've learned 28-year-old Jason Brown, the reported driver, has since been arrested and will be charged with murder. Lieutenant Allen was later pronounced dead at a local hospital.
It is with heavy heart that I say this afternoon we lost a brother, Lieutenant Aaron Allen.
Lieutenant Allen, whose nickname was Teddy Bear, was a 6-year veteran with the Southport Police Department who had more than 20 years of law enforcement experience. In 2015, he was named Officer of the Year after he saved a man's life at the state fairgrounds. He was also a husband and a father to 2 boys. And residents who live near where the shooting took place are outraged.
It's just disgusting, being a vet, I was in the service, we kind of all are in a brotherhood. I mean, are we not going to be able to walk our kids down the street because of foolishness like this?
That when we talk about police work being dangerous, that's one of those things, man, where the car is upside down and you're just thinking, I'm coming to help these people. You're not even thinking that you're necessarily in any danger of being murdered, maybe of the car collapsing or something like that. But that's a truly selfless act. Because you know what? There's some cops who'd call the fire department to help you. And they would just keep you calm while you were in the car. And they wouldn't approach like that. But this officer had that background where he knew he could do some good, having been a nurse. And went to help, man, and the dude shot him. 14 times, Gil.
If you remember, what's his name? Dave Smith. The character he used to do. Oh my God!
From where?
He was from the Arizona Department of Public Safety.
Oh yeah, Joe Buck. Is it Joe Buck?
Listen, it is Buck.
I thought
it's Buck Savage.
Buck Savage. There you go.
Savage.
Buck Savage. Yeah.
If you remember the old Buck Savage video of the traffic stop, and Buck trying to help out, and the guy is a 211 suspect or something, and Buck's helping him put his tires on his car, change his tires,
right, just being helpful.
Yeah, because he's DPS, right?
Right.
And you know, and Buck's, you know, and then the voiceover says, you know, even bad guys' cars break down.
Sure. So that could be anybody, right?
So you know, this poor guy, that thought never came, you know, and that's, you know, like you can say officers go too far approaching everybody like this.
Right, with the hand on the gun, etc.
Right, and so, you know, this is really how you're supposed to do police work, by the way. You know, you're not supposed to be officer friendly. You know, I can't trust you, even if you're in a dangerous situation. I don't know who you are yet.
Right.
I don't even know what's happened. All I know is you're in a car and it's upside down. That's all I know. So, you know, he decided to just go in, and that happened. There was a video that I posted on my Facebook page. That's there if anybody cares to go look at it, and it's from LV Metro PD in Vegas. And so they get a call of a guy who stole a phone, had his phone stolen out of his car, and he's able to track it.
Right, sure.
Yeah. And so he calls the police and he says, "Hey, I tracked my phone. It stopped at this location." And so an officer gets there, and the guy, you know, there's a guy sitting in the truck. In a pickup truck.
Yeah.
And so the second officer, you know, rolls up because they run one-man cars.
Yeah.
So one officer's on one side, the other officer's talking to him. So he walks up, he's talking to the driver. Now, the investigation is a possible stolen phone. That's the investigation.
Okay.
So you don't kind of approach, like, you know,
you never know, right?
You're just kind of, hey, you know,
what's going on?
I want to know what's happening. Why are you sitting in this truck, and are you involved with this goddamn phone? Do you have the phone or not? That's what I want to know. So they talk to him for a minute. The officer on the other side of the vehicle walks around to the driver's side. Now they're both on the driver's side, and I thought, well, why? I don't know why. If you're handling, you know, unless one guy's a rookie or something, if you're handling it, I'm going to hold my position. I'm just going to stay where I'm at.
Contact and cover.
Correct. And so the other officer, so now they're both at the driver's door. So finally they decide, you know what, step out of the car.
Yeah.
And as soon as they go to open the door and kind of assist him out of the vehicle, you know, he pulls out a gun out of his waistband and he starts shooting. You can see the officers running. Now they're scattering. One's backing up and shooting. The other one's running around the front of the car and shooting. And as you know, there's an exchange of gunfire. And the guy who backed up to the back of the vehicle, he's in a gunfight with the guy, and you can actually see the bullets coming out of the back window. The guy's continuing to engage him.
Are you kidding me?
Both officers were hit. One of them got hit in between with the vest.
Yeah.
So one guy got hit there, and the other one got hit in his duty belt, and that deflected the bullet, so he wasn't injured. So from a sitting position in a vehicle with two armed cops at his side, he was able to pull his gun, and he was able to get two hits.
Damn.
Both hits. And then as they're, you know, taking tactical cover, you hear one more gunshot, and that's what he does himself.
Oh, they didn't even get the chance to kill him?
No. But when you watch the video, it's amazing. It's 1 minute and 40 seconds into the contact. Ends up in an officer-involved shooting with both officers being hit. I mean, it all happened so quickly.
Well, here's the question, though. Did he have the phone?
He did.
Wow.
He did have the phone. The phone was in the truck.
What else did he have going that he thought he needed to shoot it out?
I don't know. I don't know what the guy. I don't know what kind of criminal history he has. You know, I don't know if he's an LA transplant or not. Or I feel sorry for Vegas, man. They're getting so much of our trash over there.
Oh yeah, that's been the case. Phoenix too. Phoenix has been getting a lot of gangbangers from LA.
Especially as you know, weed gets legal everywhere, and you know, guys are getting more bold, and you know, you have Democrats pushing to not legalize it, but decriminalize it on a federal level. You know, still a Schedule I narcotic in terms of the feds, anyway. So it's you know, Las Vegas, man. You know, my daughter lives.
I stick to the Strip, man. I go to Las Vegas. I'm on the Strip. You're not going to see me. You'll see me downtown at the Mob Museum. I go to the Mob Museum every time I go to Vegas because I love it so much.
I don't know what that is.
It's a museum for the mafia. It's a museum of organized crime in America.
I did not know that.
And it's a great exhibit because they talk about the Kefauver Commission hearings. Yes, yes. There's a relation there, by the way.
Okay.
And they talk about how they have it all over. They have the Kefauver Commission hearings in Kansas City, in New York, in Chicago, and Las Vegas. And while you're sitting there taking all this in, they say, in fact, the building you're in was the old federal courthouse for Las Vegas. And the room you're in is where the Kefauver Commission hearings were held. And you're sitting there learning about it, and you realize you're in the actual room with all the photos. Anyway, if you go to Vegas, go to the Mob Museum. Not only do they talk about the mob, They're talking about the Italian mafia from Al Capone forward, even before Al Capone. They're talking about all the way up to the Gottis, biker gangs, cartels, et cetera, et cetera. And they talk about the FBI and the DEA and the ATF and all the. So there's a police thing there too, side of it. Great museum. Anyway, that's the only reason I ever go to downtown Las Vegas is to go to the Mob Museum. The rest of the time I'm on the Strip, man, because there's just less nonsense if you're on property on the Strip. I don't mean on the sidewalk.
Yeah, I was going to say.
If you're on property on the Strip, that's where you want to be. And that, that's where
you're my daughter lives out there now, and I've been struck, over the last couple of years at the deterioration of that city around the Strip.
Sure.
Like just within view of the shining lights.
There's bullshit happening. Sure.
Beckoning you. I mean, there's the homeless. It's just ridiculous. The crime around, close to that downtown area, the arts district. It's just, I drive around there and I just go, oh my God.
And then sometimes that street crime leaks over onto the Strip. That's why I say be on property.
Yeah.
Years ago, I want to say in the late 90s, I was in Vegas at it used to be the Las Vegas Hilton. It's not that anymore. I think it's the Las Vegas Hotel or something. But I'm in the spa getting a massage, and the guy who's the masseuse is an old school Vegas guy, right? And he's since he's old school Vegas, he's one of those guys. They say in the movies he shook Sinatra's hand. Mm-hmm. One of those guys, and he's saying to me, this town used to be a lot safer when Joey and Louie and Tony ran it. And that's his exact words, Joey and Louie and Tony. And we know what he meant, right?
Yeah.
He said, but now there's probably 4 or 5 corporations that own every hotel on the Strip, and you don't have that other layer of enforcement that kept petty crime down, that you didn't have all this nonsense because they wanted Vegas to be a safe place for you to come spend your money. And that's why there was all those bodies out in the desert for the people who thought they could come and rob casinos or rob people in the casinos. They didn't get arrested. Are you kidding me? They have a place for you out there. Yeah. So Vegas has become something different, man. But, this situation with this officer being shot 14 times, I mean, the FBI did a study many years ago where they linked together some commonalities of officers who were assaulted or killed in the line of duty. And one of the common threads was quite often the officer described by his colleagues, by his coworkers, as being a very nice guy, a very humane person. And a friend of mine, Tommy Edward Scott, who was killed at L.A. Airport Police April 29, 2005. Tommy fit that description. Tommy was loved amongst his coworkers. Tommy had a great heart. Tommy had been a lifeguard before he became a police officer. So Tommy fell into that category too. And this officer here fell into that category of just being a good-hearted person who is, came into law enforcement to help people and ends up being victimized. And it could be that this officer's instincts as a nurse kicked in and his instincts as an officer took a back seat while he crawled into that vehicle to help,
And 14 rounds, and the guy emptied a magazine out of it.
Yeah, that's 14 hits.
And
that's 14 hits.
Well, that's his point-blank range, for God's sakes. And, how he got arrested and not picked up by the coroners.
They shot him. He just didn't die.
Wow.
They shot him. Yeah, he just didn't die, man. They didn't shoot him enough.
Somebody should have got the patrol rifle.
Yeah, right, and dealt with him like Atlantic City style.
Yep.
So, yeah, you hear that, man, and that's sadness, man. And, that officer's out there doing the right thing. And this happens. And this is why, like Gil said, when officers approach, what are you approaching like that for? It's just a stolen phone. These are victims. They're trapped in an upside-down car. You don't need to have your hand on your gun. You never know. I had a vehicle flip over. I responded to a vehicle rollover. I didn't even respond to it. I rolled up and it was just there. Okay, this is at 3rd and Columbia. So old station, right up the street there. You know how Columbia went up, right? Not Columbia. The 3rd Street went up back to the west. And there's a car flipped over. And I'm like, all right, I put it out. There's an overturned car. I don't know why it's overturned. But I'm thinking, are they trying to get away from something? Was somebody drunk or whatever? Turns out the guy was drunk. And I remember it was super cold that night. And I get out of my warm car, and I turn my flashlight on, and I'm speaking to the guy in the car. I go, hey, are you okay? And he goes, yeah, I'm all right. I go, okay, let me see your hands, because I want to see what's going on. I don't know what the story is. Because if you're hanging upside down in the car, how come I'm not seeing your hands? Right? If you're hanging upside down in the car, the natural position is for your hands to be on the roof. So I go, I need to see your hands, dude. And he flips me off. He goes, you see my hands now? And he flips me off. Like, all right, okay, well, yeah, that's fine. As long as I can see your hands, I don't care. So anyway, and I didn't try to pull him out of that car. I let LAFD come. And, the fire department came and they pulled him out of the car and he was drunk and et cetera, et cetera. And that's how he flipped his damn car like an idiot. Mm-hmm. But you just got to be careful, man. You just never know when you roll up on something. Like you said, even bad guys have car trouble.
Yeah. I was trying to think of that movie that Tom Cruise was in where he played the hitman.
Oh yeah, that was with Jamie Foxx in it.
With the cab.
Collateral.
Was that the name of it?
Yeah, it was Collateral or Collateral Damage, one of the two. That was and that guy's riding around in a cab killing people all night, and you don't even know who you're coming in contact with when you deal with him. I think it was either Collateral or Collateral Damage.
Right, but the one of the scenes that stuck with me was when Jamie Foxx overturns the cab trying to get away from him. And the cab's upside down. Jamie Foxx has run off, and Tom Cruise is kind of out of it, but still at the scene. And the sergeant rolls up, and he's doing the same thing. He's trying to help him,
right?
And then he's looking at the car, looking around, and he sees the dead body in the trunk, and now now it switches to something else. But you never think, overturned vehicle, a traffic accident,
right?
Just like old Buck Savage said, you never know. And that's why, I think the videos that we're showing are important for people to see, because civilians don't get to see police work up close and personal. And so at least we can play the video and we can say, here's what the officer's thinking when all this is going on.
Right.
It looks different to him than it looks to you just watching the video.
And that's what we try to point out. And that's why it's so important to be able to have that video to kind of. Because people, again, a lot of our show material comes from things people tag us in, or people suggest for discussion. It was Collateral, yeah. And we look at that and we go, now we see something different than you see when you look at that,
right?
And people want to know why did this happen, why did that happen, and we already know why it happened. And sometimes I think we make the mistake of assuming other people know, and then we don't really understand until people say something we think is silly. The people really don't know. And I think that was the genesis of the show, really, so we can kind of get in and explain that.
Right. Well, I think, my wanting to participate in when it was just an idea inside George Holt's head, was there were just so many high-profile incidents that the news media was just putting out, what we would now call fake news,
and we knew we would never run out of material
because journalists don't understand police work, and most of them have never done it. And I'm going to tell you, it's very different. If you go on a ride along with a department, right, especially a big one like LAPD, you see these, journalists. I just saw Dennis Prager was out with LAPD.
Oh, was he?
Well, they put him with two older dudes.
Sure. They're not going to get him out there and get caught up. Sure. Yeah.
That doesn't give you an insight into police work, because the guy's restricted on what he can say, number one.
And he's not going to be getting calls. They're going to get involved. They're going to be free to float around and take you to things they think they want you to see.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
So it's a different experience.
If you're a journalist and you've been on a ride along, good for you. But you got a show. That's what you got.
Right.
The nitty gritty
show and tell. You got dog and pony.
Take off. Go to the academy. Become a reserve officer. That's why I always told all my activist friends. The cops are always, they do this. I said, you know what? Become a reserve officer.
Right.
And get a haircut.
Stop smoking dope for about 6 months.
Yeah. and go out into the field and try to do police work.
Right.
And then see what happens. And if you're a Hispanic, a Latino activist, homie.
He got to be homie.
Because that's how we talk, homes. Trucha.
Hey, 323-293-3375.
You learn very quickly that... once you're in uniform, the public, your homies, your people, they only see blue. They don't see a Mexican who grew up in Lincoln Heights. When I'm out there, they see a guy who's a coconut, a sellout, a wannabe white,
pocho, a lot of pocho.
How you do that to your people? How you do your own people? How you going to look at your own people? They're breaking the law, number one. They're not my, quote, people, close quote. I don't know who that is. If you're talking about my family, he's not my family member. He's just another Mexican.
Wow.
Going to jail.
You know what? I used to tell people, when they say, how can you do that job as a black man? I said, how do you think this job would be if there was no black people doing this job? Are you kidding me? Then you'd have something to complain about. But, we were talking about cops planting dope earlier, and when I went to sergeant school up at the old LAPD Academy, they they had an IA guy come in, internal affairs guy come in, and I knew him when he was a lieutenant at Southeast Division. I didn't know that he had come from internal affairs. The time he was a captain, and he showed us a video of him undercover because they had citizen complaints about a particular officer planting dope on people. Okay, and so this guy, this IA sergeant at the time, internal affairs, grew his hair out, kind of dressed like a doper, and he gets jammed up in some area known for narcotic sales, and it's all on video, and he gets stopped by this officer and the officer's trainee. So they go to pat the rookie officer goes in, he pats the undercover down, doesn't find anything. Then the training officer goes in, he pats the guy down, and then he tells the rookie, pat him down again. So he pats him down again. He decides, I don't have anything. He goes, check his right pocket. He pats him down again, and he pulls out dope that the FTO had planted on the undercover. Okay. Well, the undercover then says, okay, they take him down, they get ready to book him. They call that officer to the watch commander's office, and they place him under arrest. Okay. The undercover officer, by the way, in this scenario was named Charlie Beck, who is now the chief of the Los Angeles Police Department. But he told us his story when we were in sergeant school when he was a captain. And he said that him and his partner actually drove that officer home. They took his badge and gun, they booked him, and I think they either OR'd him or something, and released him on his own recognizance. And he said the saddest thing in his career he ever saw was they took that officer home, and they let him out, and they said to see that old policeman walking up his driveway, holding his pants up with one hand because his belt was still in the property bag along with his shoelaces. So he's shuffling along up this driveway, holding his pants up with one hand to go tell his wife that he doesn't have a job anymore. You know, and the fact that it was all caught on video at a time when video wasn't really being used like that.
Right.
And it was just something that was happening. Now, I will say, Charlie Beck's a white guy, and so were the other officers involved, you know. But I guess the dude had been out there, you know, in the valley. It was in the valley, Sun Valley, I think it was, which is known for narcotics to this day. Right. A bunch of biker activity, narcotic activity, and you know, guys were thinking they could just get away with that kind of stuff because nobody was looking. But he didn't know you're planting dope on a future chief of police, right? who's an undercover internal affairs sergeant. You know, those things when we talk about integrity checks. Those are the kind of things that occasionally go on. So, you know, guys get caught up, man, and it's not like dope doesn't get planted. But I like to think that we've learned our lesson. And again, in a city like Baltimore, God, you don't have to plant dope on anybody. Yep. If that guy doesn't have it, catch him tomorrow, he'll have it. Or the next guy you stop, or the next third guy you stop is going to have dope. So let's see what happens out there, man. Yeah. Well, I think we're at the 9 o'clock hour, which means it's time for our second break. And we're going to come back and we're going to jump into some stuff. The story I got tagged in, and people had a whole lot to say about, and we can delve into that when we come back. All right, and that was Red Hot Chili Peppers' remake of Stevie Wonder's Higher Ground.
That's a badass version.
Yeah, I always like that one, man. I'm usually not a big fan of remakes, but that one, I don't like note-for-note remakes, and that wasn't. That was actually a different interpretation on it. Mm-hmm. That was a pretty big hit for them, too, as I recall, and rightfully so. So, Ride Along radio supporter Seymour tagged me in this story a couple of days ago. Actually, I saw it last week. I think someone else might have sent it to me also, but it started a discussion on it, where a school cop gets probation after raping a 14-year-old girl where he worked. And basically, it was a series of on-campus sexual encounters with an underage female, and the officer got no jail time, and people are shocked and angry and demanding answers. So let's play that video, and then we'll talk about what might have happened there.
Begin with new details about an HISD officer accused of having sex with a student. I'm Bill Baeza.
And I'm Lauren Freeman. It's a story we first brought you last night at 10. Now we're getting our first look at Jacob Delgadillo. Detectives say he had a relationship with a 14-year-old student at Cullen Middle School, and some of those sex acts happened on campus.
Channel 2's Jonathan Martinez live now with more on the disturbing allegations. Jonathan.
As the suspect in this case turned himself earlier into jail, however, he is already out on bail. Also new today, we are learning the details about the alleged crimes that reportedly took place right here on campus inside the school. Once an officer of the law, now on the other side of it. This is 29-year-old Jacob Delgadillo's mugshot, a former HISD police officer arrested and charged with indecency with a child.
I'm really concerned. I don't really want my daughter here anymore.
According to court documents, Delgadillo allegedly had an improper relationship with a 14-year-old student at Cullen Middle School dating back to November. It was reported by another student who also said the alleged victim told her sex acts involving the officer were performed in a girl's bathroom on campus.
That's very inappropriate because we wouldn't want our children to be growing up in that kind of environment.
Court documents state the witness would also see the officer looking into the classroom for the student and even blowing kisses at her. Also mentioned in the court documents, Delgadillo allegedly showed the student pictures of his genitals on his cell phone. During the investigation, forensic detectives found images matching that description on his phone while Delgadillo was in full uniform.
It is unfortunate that they had to have somebody like that dealing with the kids.
While being interviewed by investigators, Delgadillo denied all allegations. Little comfort for some parents just finding out about the situation.
These innocent children shouldn't be affiliated or associated with things like they come here to learn, not how to learn how to have sex.
Again, Delgadillo is out on a $30,000 bond. However, he is expected to be in court tomorrow. Coming up tonight at 6, we talked with one of Delgadillo's neighbors who doesn't...
Okay, so, and what ended up happening was he ended up getting probation for that. And I believe he doesn't have to register as a sex offender. And there's some other outrageous stuff that happened with that. And I'm wondering if they were going to or threatening to or trying to bring in the girl's sexual history, because we've seen that happen before, where there was somebody walked or got a greatly reduced sentence based on the prior history of the victim in the case. But in this case, I mean, I don't understand how you don't get jail time as an adult and as a police officer assigned to a school district. I don't understand why they wouldn't want to, throw the book at this dude entirely, because it doesn't matter what you did up till now. When you did that, any good thing you did went out the window, And it's amazing to me that we're having to talk about something like this where the dude's not going to prison for years, because we've seen this happen. Listen, there was an officer where I used to work before I got there, my last agency, but before I got there, he rolled up on a couple having sex. There was an area in that patrol area that was kind of secluded out by the water, and couples would go there to spend quality time together, Gil. And this officer rolled up on that, and apparently he rolled by, and let's put it like this: the act that was being performed, when the officer rolled up, he thought there was a guy sitting in the car by himself, because he could only see the guy sitting in the car, okay? And he rolls up on it, and he catches the woman in the act. And apparently he says, listen, this is lewd conduct, lewd and lascivious, indecent exposure, etc. And unless I get serving of that too, then you're both going to go to jail. Yeah, he did that. And so apparently she decided, well, I don't want to go to jail. And the dude is like, no, I don't want to go to jail either. So the dude gets a serving of that also. But when that was reported, they went back, they did a full CSI thing, and that dude went to the penitentiary. And this is an adult we're talking about. Everybody involved was adults. Mm-hmm. But they said it was basically forcible rape because he had a gun. He's in uniform, so he's got a gun on, and that there's threat of jail, et cetera, et cetera. And these were adults. So I don't understand how something like this could happen with an underage person. You are an adult in uniform on the school campus, an on-duty police officer for the school district of all things. Yeah. And oral copulation with a 14-year-old, and you get no jail time.
Well, first of all, I just got to say, school comps. I'm just saying, look.
You know what? I got a lot of friends, and you got a lot of people that ended up being school cops too. And I just know that they know they got to be careful in that environment.
But
believe me, there's plenty of willing teachers.
Oh,
you don't have to. You don't. From what I've heard from the school police, there's plenty of willing teachers. You don't have to stoop to students.
Yeah.
Allegedly.
First of all, I never trust any male adult who's straight and wants to work with kids. I don't trust him. I don't trust him. I want to coach. I want to make a. No, you don't.
But he can't coach.
No normal guy.
He wants to make a difference.
No normal straight male wants to coach kids. Wants to teach them. Wants to be around them.
Mentoring.
They're a pain in the ass. They don't stop making noise. They ask a bunch of questions that are not relevant to anything. You can't get them to sit down and be quiet down. No. Mm-mm.
He's mentoring them.
That's why I don't trust no mentors. I don't trust no mentors. Nobody.
Well, in this case, I don't know if the guy had a mentor relationship. But he had an appropriate relationship.
He tried to mentor, all right.
Yeah, exactly.
Oops. Wrong one.
Okay.
Anyway.
You should mark those.
They are marked. I just don't have my glasses on.
Well, I don't understand, man. I really don't understand. And hopefully there'll be some explaining of this, because I just don't get how you walk away.
There ain't gonna be no explaining. He's done.
Well, we know the school district is going to have to pay out a bunch of money,
yeah.
And it's Houston School District, so they got money, you know. And I don't know why the dude's not having to register as a sex offender. I don't know why the guy's not.
He had a good attorney.
His life isn't ruined.
He had a good attorney.
And again, I'm telling you, I think they may have threatened to drag some other stuff about that girl into court, and they didn't want to do that. They didn't want to traumatize her, so they said, "All right, whatever, just go away."
So you're saying the girl was loosey-goosey?
I'm not saying that. I'm saying I've seen it happen before, and I wonder if that was a tactic they were.
You're saying she was like a doorknob, everybody got a turn?
I see.
Is that what you're saying?
This is somebody's child, man. I don't know.
You're saying it, not me. I'm just asking.
I'm speculating.
I'm asking the question.
That may have been there, and I'm not calling nobody a door or a garden tool or nothing like that. I'm just saying that this may be what happened there. It's the only plausible explanation. See, we sit up and we kind of throw mental darts, and we say, well, I wonder if that was it. And I wonder if that was what that was. And that's all I'm doing, man. I'm just kind of mental spitballing here.
Yeah, well, we don't.
Mental darts, trying to figure out what it could have been.
I saw the story earlier in the week, and I just didn't like. Well, okay.
But it's not the usual thing that happens.
So I don't know. I don't know what the circumstances are. I don't know I don't know anything about the officer. Like the LAPD officer who was having sex with the cadet.
Yeah, he ain't getting probation.
He ain't getting probation.
Okay, that's what I'm talking about.
But I mean, I'm surprised, or the department didn't want to go after that, because the LAPD just started serving search warrants,
right?
On everything: phones, tablets, computers, houses, garages, everything. And Lord only, they found all kinds of stuff, the weapons, just all kinds of stuff. But let me tell you something: the cops that I know, if every department went to their officer's house and did a yearly check,
right,
of the unannounced,
right,
let's just see what you got.
Yeah.
Oh, you got a gun safe.
Yeah. Open it up.
Or two.
Right.
Let's just see what you got.
Yeah.
Well, they'd be stunned what they find.
Well, yeah, and that has happened when officers have gotten in trouble and they've gone to the house and served a search warrant and then told them to crack that safe. And oh my God, what do you got? And in fact, I'm trying to think of a time when that hasn't happened, where they had a warrant for the gun safe and didn't find something, So, so there's that. And I'll be watching that to kind of find out and trying to get some explanation on that, because I don't understand that one. Here's another, the next video up. And we've already discussed this offline. Well, actually, it was online. It wasn't on air. About President Trump. I guess he was joking. He called it a joke. Suggesting rougher treatment of suspects in a joking manner, and a lot of people took exception to that. So we have a short video, and then we'll talk about that quickly, and then we'll move on.
They have transformed peaceful parks and beautiful, quiet neighborhoods into blood-stained killing fields. They're animals. We cannot tolerate, as a society, the spilling of innocent, young, wonderful, vibrant people. But I have a simple message today for every gang member and criminal alien that are threatening so violently our people. We will find you, we will arrest you, we will jail you, and we will deport you. And when you see these towns, and when you see these thugs being thrown into the back of a paddy wagon, you just see them thrown in, rough. I said, please don't be too nice. Like when you guys put somebody in the car and you're protecting their head, you know, the way you put their hand over. Like, don't hit their head, and they've just killed somebody, don't hit their head. I said, you can take the hand away, okay? We need more resources from Congress, and we're getting them. Congress is actually opening up and really doing a job. They should have approved health care last night, but you can't have everything. Boy, oh boy. They've been working on that one for 7 years. Can you believe that? The swamp. But we'll get it done. We're going to get it done. You know, I said from the beginning, let Obamacare implode and then do it. I turned out to be right. Let Obamacare implode.
Okay. I'm glad that's over.
For the president.
I'm glad that's over.
Another round of applause for President Trump.
You know, this dude, I think he's got adult onset ADD or something, because he goes there for one thing and veers off into the other thing. I understand he was talking about MS-13, right? Mm-hmm. To begin with, the Salvadoran gang, that vicious gang, man. I knew a guy, an LAPD guy, crash officer, who had been a sniper instructor in the Marine Corps. And part of what he had done in the Marine Corps was he had been deployed to El Salvador to train the Salvadoran Army snipers. Okay? He's doing a traffic stop in Rampart Division one day, pulls guys out of a car, bunch of MS-13 guys, including 2 of his former students from the Salvadoran Army Sniper School, from when he was a U.S. Marine down in El Salvador, teaching them sniping. Mm-hmm. So this is who's joining MS-13, guys who've got combat experience and guys who've got formal combat training. And it's just kind of an amazing thing, you know, that, you run into somebody in the southern hemisphere of the world in a whole different circumstance, and now you're a cop and they're gangbangers, and you're pulling them out of a damn car, and you train them how to kill. So he was talking about MS-13. And so from that came as the Washington Post says, suggests rougher treatment of suspects. Now, it is clear that it was it was an attempt at levity.
And cops laughed.
And of course cops laughed. Because
they got the joke.
They got the joke, and we laugh at shit like that. However,
it was
but then you had the immediate backlash, the immediate and well-deserved backlash from a lot of agencies saying, hey, we don't play that. Because you have to say that.
You only got it from the administration of these police departments.
Well, that's the leadership.
These lefty.
They're the only ones who authorize the print on letterhead.
Lefty departments at the
NYPD
that are appointed
LAPD
that are appointed by lefty mayors, and so they have to say that nonsense. Working cops laughed.
Well, and here's the thing, and it's not that we say all kind of stuff that we couldn't say if we were the president. We laugh at all kind of stuff we couldn't laugh at if we were the president. You know, me and you standing on a street corner, we see some drunk stumbling across the street and he falls and busts some teeth out of his face. We're probably going to chuckle a little bit, okay, before we go over there and see if he's okay. If you're the president, you can't do that. If you're the president, you got to maintain some sort of decorum. And you can't even begin to suggest it was inappropriate.
He didn't suggest one thing.
Well, he suggested.
It was a joke.
I know. But that's why I say you can't begin to suggest. There's certain things you can't joke about. That's all. Words matter, right? Words matter. So that's why a lot of these agencies issue these statements saying, "Hey, that wasn't cool.
Police administrators.
We don't believe in that. We don't."
Police administrators.
And I do agree that you're not going to have any police officer out there saying, "Well, Trump said it was okay to thump on that guy."
Right.
You know, at least no big city cops. We got some backwards ass police out there in some of these backwater places that have a 2-month academy.
So Trump said I could.
You know, so he said it was cool. Well, hell, the president said I could.
Well, he did. You know, but then if you're the sergeant, said, "Well, he didn't actually say that, Sweet Pea." That's not what he said.
Well, who knows? The sergeant might be his cousin.
He just
shit, or his brother, or both.
He just said, "Don't tell him to watch your head as they're getting in the car." That's all.
Right. He said, "Don't be so nice."
It's funny.
Don't be so nice. You take the hand away, okay? Take the hand. In the back of a paddy wagon. I don't think they even have paddy wagons anymore.
I don't know. You can't even say paddy anymore.
Wow, that's right. And actually, that's a racial thing, really.
Yeah, when I was a police explorer with LAPD, blacks were blacks, Mexicans were Mexicans, and whites were paddies. That's what they called them. If they were witnesses or if they were suspects.
Are you kidding me?
No, I'm not kidding you.
Man, that's inappropriate.
It was not. It was just, that's what they called white people. They were just, I remember being on ride-alongs with our advisor, and you get a call out there, and
who called people? White cops are calling people patties?
Yes, that's what we call white people.
A white patty?
No. No, I'm talking about in police work.
Okay, but we're talking about in the streets.
What department was she on?
Well, she.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Well, but it doesn't mean she don't know both. Doesn't mean she don't have a foot in both worlds.
I'm just saying that. I'm telling you what I experienced at West Valley Division.
Well, the paddy wagon was because
white suspects were paddies. For God's
back
sakes.
in the day, paddy was something you called an Irishman, someone of an Irish American who was called paddy and became a derogatory name. But a lot of your cops, especially back east, they were Irish, and so that's why that name, the paddy wagon, came by. They used to call it the Black Mariah too. At a certain point, Mariah being an Irish name, so
not Mariah Carey.
Not Mariah Carey. Okay. The Black Mariah, they would call that.
But they didn't call it the Black Mariah Carey.
No, she wasn't even around then.
Okay.
Although it would carry people to jail in it.
Sure.
But anyway, that's where paddy wagon came from. It's derogatory name for Irish.
Okay. Well, there was a time when paddy wasn't derogatory, for God's sakes. It was just what you called white people, white suspects, white victims.
So it's okay to say that?
It was a black.
I'm asking.
Of course.
So Barack Obama said that. Hey, this white paddy officer stopped my partner, Henry Louis Gates, at his house, and this paddy walked up to him, put handcuffs on him. That'd been okay?
That would have been funny. That would have been funny. He goes, yeah, that paddy that got old Louis Gates and hooked him up. They acted stupidly. That paddy acted stupidly. That would have been funny.
Yeah, it would have been funny to some people. Okay, so anyway, there was a backlash from that.
And if I may add, Barack Obama would have got a pass on that. Just because.
Oh, no, hell no.
Oh, yeah,
you guys would have lit that man on fire for that.
Just because.
You kidding me?
He gets a pass for everything.
He got a pass for nothing.
He gets a pass for everything just because he's black.
No,
And
you ask him if he felt like he got a pass.
And if I might add, he's only half.
But that's the cold part.
He light skinned. Man,
that's the cold part. That's why he got half of a pass from some people. Shit, but he didn't get no pass. But now on to another Trump story
from the media. He did,
and this is a
wait. So are we done with the
well,
joke?
Because
I just wanted to add.
You got another funny? Go ahead.
Well, no, it's not a funny. I just wanted to say that his joke is not public policy. Just like the other day, Jim Acosta was arguing with Stephen Miller at the press room briefing, and they got into this thing about the Statue of Liberty on immigration. And so Jim Acosta starts to say, "Give me your poor, give me your tight."
Yeah, huddle masses.
It is. And somebody needed to say to Jim Acosta, "Excuse me, but a poem isn't public policy, for God's sake. This is not the law; it's a poem."
Yeah, but take it down. That's why I've been saying that. I'm fine. Shut down the border. Do whatever you're gonna do, but take the sign down because it's false advertising, and that's what
it's not advertising.
We put it in speeches. It's on the damn.
No, we don't.
It's on the people put that in speeches.
Who?
And it's on the statue. It's on the T-shirts. It's on the memorabilia.
The only people you ever hear referred to, "Give me your tired, your huddle mess," are people who are for illegal immigration. That's it. You never hear normal people talk about that.
Normal people.
Normal people. That's right.
There.
That's right.
Well, you know what? The people who are against illegal immigration, for the most part, their ancestors came over here because that sign was on that thing. My ancestors didn't have no choice. But a lot of people who are pushing for this, pushing against illegal immigration, their ancestors got here because of that sign.
Well, my ancestors, we were just standing around saying, "¿Qué pasó?"
Well, you guys didn't land on Plymouth Rock. Plymouth Rock landed on you, right? The border. You didn't cross the border. The border crossed you. That's what you guys say, right? We say Plymouth Rock. You guys say the border. We didn't cross the border. The border crossed us.
The border crossed us.
Yeah, there you go.
The border didn't cross me.
Well, okay.
I was born on this side.
Well, yeah, you were.
So I'm a hater. I'm born on this side. I'm bad. I'm the asshole. How's that?
Well, that's not why.
That's not why what?
That's not why you're the asshole. All right. So look, President Trump did something else. That,
he did?
Yes, he did. And
what else did he do?
Well, this is something good for one. This is something good.
Oh, okay. I thought the MS-13 thing was good, for God's sake.
He started off good, but he had to shit on it. There's always shit to bed. He can't just leave it be.
You can't joke?
But
his little joke was a shit on it?
He shit the bed. So
what?
Look, it's not as bad as some of the other stuff. I mean, he's not going to prison for that.
Well, he's not going to prison anyway. He ain't going nowhere.
Vamos a ver.
You know what? I feel I'm concerned about one of my fans.
Who's that?
Well, I don't want to say anybody's name because it's on Facebook, but I'm just going to call the guy Ralph. I'm concerned about this guy because he's just so high-strung. He cusses a lot. He says fuck a lot.
He does.
And I don't know why.
Life,
and I'm scared. You know why I'm afraid? Because he has a gun.
Oh, wow.
And I think he has bullets. I think
he does. He knows how to use them, too.
I don't know, because he kind of sounds, well, I don't want to say he's carrying one bullet.
We won't say his name, but I think he's a longtime co-worker and friend of mine.
So. Well, I don't know. I'm not saying anybody's name. I'm just calling him Ralph, just because that's the name in my head.
And he drops a lot of F-bombs.
It's just, but he cusses a lot. I'm concerned.
Are you offended by that?
No, I'm not offended. I'm concerned. Sometimes I want to just, I want to type in the suicide hotline.
Wow.
I do, just because I'm concerned.
Okay.
I'm just concerned.
All right.
Because so many people are responding to the president. They just, my gosh, they're out there, for God's sakes. And he ain't going nowhere, by the way. You're in for a lot. My little fan, I'm calling Ralph, in air quotes, Ralph.
Yeah.
Going to have a long 8 years.
A
long 8 years. A long 8 years.
Yeah, it ain't gonna be no 8 years.
I hope he finds Jesus, because it's gonna be a long 8 years.
It ain't gonna be no 8 years.
Oh yeah, buddy.
All right, so we had these. As you guys may remember, we had an assault by a gunman rather on the Republican. Was it the softball team, the congressional softball team, or the Senate softball team? Congressional.
Yes.
Softball team.
It was a team.
And it was stopped by. Well, there were some people that got hit, but nobody got killed. And it was stopped by 2 Capitol Police officers. And those officers were, they received honors. They received the Police Medal of Valor, the Public Safety Medal of Valor from the President this past week. And we'll roll that footage and talk about that.
The Medal of Valor is reserved for those who go above and beyond the call of duty, as each of these men and women did that on that fateful day. And they did it with great courage. And they did it with instinct. When our human instincts tell us to run, there's danger. Our police and first responders run straight at it, standing in the breach, protecting the innocent and keeping our loved ones safe. We are forever in your debt. Thank you. God bless you. God bless our truly amazing law enforcement. And God bless America. Thank you very much. Thank
you. Every year, the president awards the Public Safety Medal of Valor, and this was this year's recipients.
As well deserved.
Oh, that way they went into the line of fire, man. That was above and beyond.
Look, those guys went up against a rifle. With handguns.
And they won. And they won.
That's right.
No, there's certainly something to be said about that. No doubt. And I really think that they, and we talk about putting your personal feelings aside and in doing your job, right? So you had a police officer who was a minority, a female, and a lesbian who went out there and did her job.
What?
Yeah.
What does being a lesbian have to do with anything?
It does, because if we look at the party that has an issue with gay rights, it's the Republican Party, right?
Oh my God!
Well, who's fighting for gay rights? Who's not?
Okay,
fighting for gay rights?
That's it. Thank you for tuning in.
Oh,
we'll see you next week.
Just
Bye-bye.
now, Trish Navarrete Singham posted on our Facebook. I'll give the poetess $5 if she mutes Gil's mic. So you got $5 coming from Trish. From Baby Sis Trish, if you mute her brother's mic.
My mic is hot.
So
the mic is hot.
So anyway, that woman, though, that officer set aside whatever feelings she may have had, whatever political differences she may have had, and did her job. And that's what this is all about. You don't think about when you go into the line of fire, when you go into a burning building, when you go into a car that's flipped over, you don't think about who's in that car in terms of, should I save that person or shouldn't I? Should I go do my job or shouldn't I? At least you're not supposed to. And that's what the job is about. That's what above and beyond. Because both of them could have called for backup and gone in when it was over, maybe, or taken or at least delayed their reaction to where they didn't get shot, because they got shot. At least one of them got shot. That's why she was on crutches,
right?
Because she got shot. And but they went and they put in work, and they killed the gunman, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I mean, hey, they went in and did what they were supposed to do, and thank God that they were there, because that would have been a terrible tragedy with long-lasting repercussions. Yeah. So you're smiling.
You know, you've taken a moment that was, you know, just I don't even know how to describe it. It's one of those moments that comes once in a lifetime, and you describe the officer as an officer, a female, and a lesbian,
and a woman of color.
And okay. You know,
well, no, that's important because
it is not.
That's important because in spite of those differences, when it came time to do her job, she did her job.
You're assuming that because she's a lesbian and she's black that she's anti-Trump.
No, Trump wasn't there.
You just said she
I didn't say anything about Trump.
You said she put her stuff aside to do.
I didn't say anything
whatever.
about Trump, though.
But that's what you mean.
I don't mean Trump.
That's what all you guys mean all the time.
I don't mean Trump. But who's you guys? I didn't say nothing about Trump.
You guys, you all, you know, you're like, you know, my.
Well, I'm talking about the representative that she was protecting, Steve Scalise, and how he's voted on matters. Is what I'm talking about, and his party for the most part, but him in particular. This guy's not been a champion of gay rights. Okay, not at all. In fact, quite the contrary. But she put that aside and she went out there and protected him.
How do you know?
And she laid her. That's public record.
How do you know she put that aside?
Well, because she went out there and licked shots and saved his ass.
How do you know she's not a conservative?
Okay. She still would have put that, whatever issues. Listen, she could be conservative about certain things. Don't mean she's conservative about gay rights if she's gay.
But you don't know.
Okay. You know what? I will look into where I got that from because I can't quote it exactly right now, and I will bring that to you, and we can rehash this later if you like. All right.
I just think you just, you know, she did her job. She did a fantastic job. She went up against a guy with a patrol rifle, and she's armed with a handgun.
Her and her partner,
and they fired back. They brought the fight to the guy, which is what you do when you're under, you know, when you're being ambushed. You have to put more rounds down range than the guy who's shooting at you, and they won. They were injured, but they won. They didn't stop fighting. They protected those people, and I would find it very difficult to believe that they ever thought that any of those cops out there had any kind of political thought whatsoever about
that's what I'm saying. That's exactly what I mean.
For God's sake,
that's exactly what I mean. That doesn't even enter into your mind. You just go do it in spite of whatever else. You just go do it. We were in Sacramento one year when I was at the Union, and we went to the governor's office, or we walked past the governor's office in the Capitol. When you first walk in there, there's a California Highway Patrol officer posted up outside the governor's office in full uniform. And Marshall McLean, I was with Marshall McLean, actually, Union president, and we walked by, and he says to her, because at the time Arnold Schwarzenegger was a governor, and he was making huge cuts to the CHP's budget and going after their retirement. And he says to her, how do you protect somebody who's going after your very livelihood and threatening to take away all these pension benefits you guys negotiated for?
Wow, he said that?
He asked her that.
Wow.
He asked her, what are your thoughts on that? Not how could you do it. He's asking her, how does it feel to be protecting somebody, blah, blah, blah. And she looked, and she kind of smiled, and she kind of looked past us, and she goes, no comment, sir. But she kept a smile on her face as she said it. But basically, I'm a pro. I'm here to do my job. And, you know, whatever else on that, you know, because that's what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to set that aside. You're supposed to serve no matter who the president is, the governor is. You're supposed to protect them. That's what you're supposed to do.
Only an activist would ask a question like that.
Yeah, well, that's what he is.
An activist.
He's one of the best at it, too.
An activist.
So, look, this was show number 86, and we're closing in on that fateful show 100. Now, I guess we got to talk about what we want to do for that in terms of a live studio audience and how we're going to let people.
Yeah, because we can't have a whole studio full of dang lefties here.
We'll get Ralph in here.
You know, I have to get Randa. I have to bring Randa with me in case I have to fight my way out. I wear my vest, of course, in case somebody, you know, with a gun
and bullets,
you know, decides to try to end Gil right then and there, end the Ride Along radio show, at least half of it.
We had to bring Kent Lee in that night just in case.
Exactly.
So listen, until then, you can follow us on Twitter, Ride Along Radio.
I'll tell you who I'm going to bring as my bodyguards. I want Kaz. I want Kaz.
That's
who I want.
Kaz is in Malaysia still. We text each other the other day. He's still in Malaysia. So you have to wait till he comes back. He'll be back by then. You can follow us on Instagram at Ride Along Radio Show, or you can send us an email to ridealongradioshow@gmail.com if you got any show ideas or whatever. But the best thing to do, of course, is leave comments down here in the YouTube comment section, and we'll get back to those next week. And until that time, I am George Holt.
And I'm not.
No, he's not. Not at all. All right. And we'll see you guys next week here on the Ride Along Radio Show.
We want to talk right down to earth in a language that everybody here